Welcome back. With the delay of starting, we had prepared a lot of content to...
We're just going to bang them out. We got some good tidbits here for you.
We do.
But we don't want to hold you too long because we know we started late. So
Yep.
we'll get through it.
We're going to start with a really quick reminder that when you log into the virtual office and go to use Quick Connect, there is an FAQ button where if you click on it, you're going to see a summary of the most frequently asked questions. You might be able to find an answer to what you're looking for in a very short period of time just by clicking on the frequently asked questions button. That's right beneath the Quick Connect button for contacting a manager. So,
Perfect.
but why don't we start out? We'll start out with one that I get on a regular basis that all the managers do with respect to dower. This is going to be a really quick summary. For the non-titled spouse or non-titled owner in this case, you have to wrap your head around three things. The non-titled owner needs to consent to the listing in the first place, which requires one document in conjunction with the listing contract. They then need to consent when an offer is made and it is negotiated and accepted. That's the second time they need to sign a specific document. And then they're going to need to go to the lawyer to agree to the transfer of land just before the sale closes or within 2 to 3 weeks of it closing. That's 3 times that non-titled spouse or owner must consent to the sale. A lot of people, it used to be a different way. The non-titled owner would just go to the lawyer on closing, sign everything up there, and away we go.
That's not enough these days.
It's not enough, and it hasn't been enough for about 3 years. So if it's something that, you're coming up on one, it is very important to get this done. Now, keep in mind, they consent to the listing of the property. Then they get a conditional sale in place. If that sale dies and another sale comes in the works, they have to go back and get another document signed. It's got to be signed for each individual sale
contract.
that they're agreeing with that specific sale. So for anybody with questions surrounding it, there you have it. I know that we're still going to get a ton of Quick Connects on dower because of the people not watching this. But the truth is, we'd rather you check in with us and do it right rather than risk the entire sale in the process, which can happen. So,
Yeah, please do that.
Yes.
The next one we get a fair bit is how you deal with corporations and FinTrack.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is that you need to get your hands on the corporate documents. That's going to show you who owns the corporation, and hopefully it also talks about who has signing authority.
Yes.
So you actually need to do 2 FinTrack documents. There's the corporate identity document that basically outlines, it's basically FinTrack for the company itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have determined who has signing authority, then you also do FinTrack on that person.
Yes.
Like the normal individual identification form that you normally do, you do that on the person who is doing the signing.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that makes sense. So in addition to everything else, you need the corporate FinTrack and the corporate documents.
Yes. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Terms. We often have a specific term writing class that happens every couple of months or 3 months.
Yeah.
It's a great class. Every time we have that class, it sells out quickly, and people rave about what they learn in that class.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, if something needs to be repaired or replaced after you've removed conditions and before possession, you'd want to structure that into the deal usually before you've removed conditions, just in that process. Something comes up in an inspection that the seller agrees to repair. You need something in writing, and it's going to be a term 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And what you're going to do is you need to list the specific item to be repaired or replaced, the date that it needs to be done by. You're going to want to have in there proof, either in the form of a receipt or an actual walkthrough to inspect that it's been done to the buyer's liking and to meet the specific term. Then you're going to need to also create in there some sort of a financial penalty or cost associated if it's not done, and that cost or financial penalty will be provided to the buyer on closing through the buyer's lawyer. So just a quick recap: specific item by a specific date, some sort of proof, financial penalty on closing through the buyer's lawyer. in a nutshell, I know we're going to get a ton of questions on this as we move forward. We always do, and it's okay. But what we'd like as managers is to challenge you to try to write the term first.
Yeah.
And then provide us with your example. Some people, they're very busy and they get in the habit of just coming straight to the management team. And we help the same individuals a couple of times. We'd like to see you up your game.
Well,
Write
yeah.
it yourself. Give us an example and we'll critique it and help you make sure that it's proper to protect your buyer.
I would strongly recommend downloading a copy of Area's Guide to Supplementary Clauses.
Indeed.
Am I calling it the right thing? It's
is
very
on our
wordy, whatever it's called.
On our virtual office on the forms page.
Yeah,
right in the middle.
halfway down, there's this red paragraph
Mm-hmm.
that looks like it's not something you should click on, but it does say click here for Area's Guide to Supplementary Clauses. If you haven't ever looked at that, that is a really good place to start. It basically has like template terms for everything you could possibly think of, including what your example just now with repairs that the seller has to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest downloading that and trying to use that template as your guide. And then if you want a manager to double check it just to make sure, then at least then you kind of have a template for us to kind of look at it and help you tweak.
That's right.
Yeah.
Deposits. We also get questions a lot on wire deposits, on direct deposits. We also get the question on a regular basis about, can my client just e-transfer money from their account to CIR?
Yeah.
And the answer for that one is no. That's got nothing to do with CIR. It's got everything to do with RECA policy and
You can't track it.
you
as
cannot
well.
track it as well. So e-transfers, it's not a CIR thing, it's an industry thing. If you hear that other brokerages are allowing their agents to do it, they're not.
They shouldn't be.
Or they're just mixing up the wording. Because
We do take wire transfers.
Exactly. Yep. And we do accept direct deposit when somebody were to go to a bank and directly deposit it into CIR's trust account. Now, the only way that they can do that, and we have a nice cheat sheet done up for our agents.
Yep.
It's right on the virtual office where you go into the enter a sale button.
Yep.
If you look just below where you actually click the button to enter the sale, there's another button that says direct deposit and wire transfer instructions. If you click on it, it's going to generate everything you need to know to provide to the buying side with respect to getting money into our the correct account. Now, right on it, there is a disclaimer. It says you cannot use the same one for multiple deposits. If you print it off today, you can't just rinse and repeat that exact same one.
Yeah.
You will need to do one each time that you have a deposit. Read the instructions on there. They're very clear.
The reason for that is because every time you download that form, the document, the part that you fill out actually goes to accounting, so they are prepared to take the money in and they can track it. Whereas if you just kind of send it out willy-nilly, then accounting doesn't have all the information that they need to expect the money coming in and whatnot. So just make sure that you do that. Processing terminations is the next one that I want to talk about. It's good that you guys don't often know the exact procedures with terminations, because that means you're not terminating a bunch of properties.
Indeed.
But basically the how-to guide on that is if you pull up the termination agreement for a listing, at the very bottom there's a line for the broker to sign. We get a lot of agents that sign that and send it in, but you guys actually don't have signing authority for that specific line item.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a manager. So when you're doing a termination, fill out that form, have your client sign it before you send it to managers. Once it's all executed on your behalf and on your client's behalf, please make sure that you've either checked off conditional or unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how often I get those back without identifying which kind of status they want, and we can't process it unless we know if you want it conditional or unconditional.
That's right.
So make sure you're checking that off, and then send it over to us. We sign it, we'll submit it on Matrix for you. You guys can't actually change that status on Matrix. It has to be from us. So make sure you send them over, signed by your clients, and checked off unconditional or conditional.
And to build on that, on our forms page with respect to our termination forms, we've also got a couple of additional checkboxes that state, are you relisting this property? And is there a sign up on this property? While our accounting department knows who has signs out there for what listings, it's a really quick, informative piece that helps our team to not have your sign removed quickly.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're relisting the same day, the next day, we can get away with it. If it's going to be in a future date, the sign does technically have to come down because you don't have an active listing under contract. So keep in mind that when you use our forms page with the terminations, you can give us some relevant information so that your sign doesn't necessarily come down right away. And to let us know that you are relisting right away. It can make the process for you a lot smoother.
Yep.
So, yeah. And send it into your respective manager. You'll want to send for the South Office agents, you'll send to Chloe, for the Northwest Office agents to myself, so on and so forth, and we will get them off as quickly as we possibly can.
Also, I don't know if you feel this way, but if you're doing it in advance, it's nice to have it sent on the day you want it terminated. Mm-hmm. Because if you send it to us kind of 5 days in advance, we'll hold on to it and make it happen. But it's easier if you're sending it on the day you want to terminate it.
Yep.
If it's on a weekend, because we do get the odd one on a weekend, put through a quick connect and find out who's on call.
Yes, so that you can send it to the on-call manager so it can be done right away.
Yeah.
And to Chloe's point, you definitely want to make sure you filled it out correctly. We do get a lot of terminations at times, and when it's listing an MLS listing number, we have to go in.
We need the MLS number.
We have to go in and search it.
Don't skip that line, please.
And while it seems pretty quick, when you think about it, if we're not logged into Matrix or we're not logged into the system, we've now got to find it. Sometimes we'll do terminations on our phone when we're away from the office, and it's really cumbersome to do that. So try to make sure you fill it out correctly.
Yeah.
Because if you send us one in and then you go off and you're busy for the next 10 hours, and we responded right away or within an hour or two saying we need this information, it might not get terminated that day. So be very careful with filling it in correctly, please, so that your client doesn't look at you. Yes. And so your client doesn't look at you and say, why am I still up?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, we're going to do a 3-minute rundown on CMAs because we get a lot of questions on how to do CMAs, which is totally understandable because it's an art, not a science in a lot of ways, especially with unique properties.
Indeed.
Very subjective thing to be doing. So a few recommendations that we have for you if you're struggling with CMAs. If you're a brand new agent and you've never done a CMA before, we do offer courses on it. We do also have a bunch of resources in the virtual office about CMAs, so check that out. We are happy to sit down with you if you've kind of tried to plug away at it and you're just really running into some problems. Managers are available to help with that too. But we would strongly suggest, if possible, that you kind of get a group of friends. And again, CIR is very collaborative.
Yes.
But, we have like mentorship groups out there. We've got some strategy groups out there. Working on CMAs and stuff, while you need to be careful, obviously, with confidentiality and whatnot, but working on, what is a garage worth in Evergreen? Or, what's a double versus a triple worth? Or what's a finished basement worth? Working through those scenarios with other agents that are active in the industry, that are, out there in the trenches every day is really, in my opinion, the best way to kind of get a well-rounded number.
I would agree. To the tune of visiting builders and understanding build costs, talking to friends that have renovated their basements or redid their kitchens, people that have gone from non-granite kitchens to granite, things like that. Just getting a good understanding of various adjustments. Now, when I was practicing, and I know when Chloe was practicing and the other management team, and our top producing agents that we talk to regularly about CMAs, they don't nickel and dime. They're not doing a $100 adjustment. Often they're not doing a $1,000 adjustment. They're doing things that would move the needle.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a CMA and you haven't done a sale in 2 or 3 months, or you're getting back into it, and you don't feel that confidence, just remember you don't want to get into analysis paralysis. You want to create something. If you have agents you trust, you want to bounce it off them. You can definitely bounce it off management. You got to understand that for a manager to take a look at your CMA, it's going to take us a little bit of time. We've got to check the recent sales. We've got to check the active competition. We've got to put ourselves in the mindset of you. Yeah. And it takes a little bit of time. So If you've got a buy that's, you're representing a buyer and you're meeting them tonight and you find out that they want to make an offer at 3 p.m., it's highly unlikely we're going to be able to get you in and do a CMA analysis in 1 hour before it's time to meet your client. The reason I say this is because you need to be practicing your CMAs often.
Yes.
Before you get into the situation where you have to deliver the goods. Visiting builders, talking to your fellow agents, visiting an open house and predicting how the seller arrived at their asking price, and then maybe even predicting what this property is likely going to sell for. You're going to start to build up your confidence. And this is, people ask us when they interview to become a realtor, what's a day in the life of the realtor? Weekly, you're practicing CMAs.
Yeah, I agree.
Until you're confident.
I'm going to sound like I'm on repeat here, but honestly, real estate reviews, again, I know I'm beating a dead horse or whatever that saying is. Oh, that's a terrible saying. I take that back. Whatever, let's think of some other, whatever, you get what I'm saying.
100%.
With doing real estate reviews, if you're sitting down with 100 clients in a year and doing CMAs for them before they're thinking of selling or anything like that, first of all, now you have a fairly recent CMA that you've already done with that client. But even with that aside, you get so fast at doing CMAs because you're practicing them. Like every single week you're doing to make sure that you're doing the real estate reviews accurately. So you're already got that going, the practice side. But then on top of that, like honestly, you just get so fast at them. I'm a strong believer in that, obviously.
Chloe and I could do a CMA on 6 properties. And it's likely that our numbers will be different by 10 or 15 grand for every single property by the time we're done our CMAs. And if we polled 10 other agents, I'd be willing to bet that we'd be within 20 grand between us and 6 other agents on some cases.
Yep.
So you shouldn't have the paranoia that, oh my God, if I'm out by 5 grand compared to what Chloe said, I'm wrong or I'm right.
Again, it's an art.
It's completely, and it's arbitrary to your experiences, your opinion. Steve Phillips and a lot of our agents use the Focus First. The Focus First stats and whatnot for doing CMAs. Great software, really easy to explain to your buyers and your sellers.
Yeah.
If you're finding that you're experienced and you really have a tough time with CMAs, you should be looking into alternatives so you can deliver when you need to in a way that you're confident.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's not about what you think the property is worth. It's what the buyer and the seller agree to sell the property at. And you're kind of just the guide on the path. But
yeah. I think that about wraps it up because we're 15 minutes over.
We are.
Not bad considering we started 25 minutes late.
Again, apologies for that.
Yep.
Have an awesome week.
Indeed.
Hope to see you at the Super Huddle.
Yep. I hope to see you at the Super Huddle as well. One last thing, we talk on occasion with the management team about adjusting your state.
Oh, yeah.
And right now it's the beginning of the year. You're going to have client meetings, you're going to see people at parties, you're going to run into people at bus stops, at different events. Walk in there with that mentality of, I got this. I am the right person to advise anybody that asks me questions about real estate. Be prepared and knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
And make it a great year. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good stuff. Good high five.
Thanks, team.
Have a great week.
See ya.